Their supposedly lucky day soon became a nightmare. Despite nearing 60, she still hoped for a lucky break. Everyone dreams of winning big or hitting the jackpot, but deep down, we know it's just a dream. Migdalia Cruz's life had been tough, but her strong bond with her son, Luis Correa, made it all worthwhile. Despite nearing 60, she still hoped for a lucky break. Little did she know, it was closer than she thought. They both hoped to win the lottery and often bought scratch cards. This time, their $2 card turned out to be the right one, changing their lives. The surprises didn't end there. Instead of waiting to get home, Migdalia started scratching the card in the car. She was so engrossed that Luis had to check on her. He was shocked by what his mother told him. Nothing like this had ever happened to them before, and while they had always bought the tickets in hope of winning, it was still surreal to look at the little ticket and seeing the numbers all lined up. This wasn't some $50 prize either. It was the very top winning amount, a whopping $20,000. For such a big prize, they couldn't just go to any old corner shop or gas station. They would need to drive through to Orlando to collect the winnings, a trip anyone would gladly do for that kind of reward. It wasn't long before the mother and son pair were in the office claiming the grand prize. Now they just had to think of all the ways that they could spend all that money, or so they thought. They needn't have worried over those kinds of details because life and the Deltona enforcement team had other things in mind for this family. It was time that their brushes with the law would be coming back to haunt them in a serious way. The time was 4:30 p.m. when the team arrived at the family's house to execute a search warrant. Migdalia and Luis were standing outside on the front lawn, most likely thinking of all the lovely things they could buy when they saw the unmistakable flashing blue lights pull up beside the house. They both went from feeling invincible to cold panic flooding their veins, but there was nowhere to run. It had only been 2 hours since Migdalia and Luis had felt on top of the world. Then, the sheriff's office arrived at their Deltona home with a search warrant where they found 3 incriminating bags that would rob them of every single penny they had just won. Fortunately, Migdalia and Luis had the $20,000 in lottery winnings, but even that wasn't nearly enough to cover the bail. The sheriff's office posted to Facebook about the arrest. The arrests were the culmination of a criminal investigation into activities at 2675 Holland Boulevard in Deltona. Luis was released on bail for $36,000, while his mother got out for $5,000. A third suspect, 34-year-old Dana Leflam, was also arrested, but she was not granted any bail. The 3 suspects all share one thing in common. They have all been arrested before and had a long history of trouble with the law. And that's not the only case where things have gone seriously wrong for big-time lottery winners. According to Michael Boone, less than 50% of big winners are happy a mere 3 years later. So is it just bad luck? Are people who win such a life-changing amount of money cursed? Or is there some science behind what makes so many winners so miserable? Simply put, it really depends on the individual who won. If you had the opportunity to do all the things you had ever dreamed of, would they be good things? Or would you fall into a rut of all your bad habits? Just take Jack Whittaker of West Virginia. He had the only winning ticket for a grand total of $314,900,000, but it didn't do him any good. 2 years later, Whittaker's wife says she wishes she had torn up the winning ticket. The entire family had crumbled beneath the weight of the money. John himself faced countless lawsuits and had been arrested twice for driving under the influence. The huge windfall turned a man that everyone in the small town knew and respected into an arrogant and greedy man. But there is a worse fate for some. Abraham Shakespeare was a casual laborer from Sebring, Florida. He won a modest amount of $30 million in the lottery in 2006. Unlike John Whittaker, Abraham didn't waste his money on booze and gentlemen's clubs. In fact, he was the exact opposite. He was more than generous with sharing his newfound wealth, and that's what led to his downfall. Abraham was spending a large amount of money by buying houses and cars for his fellow Polk County residents. He relished in giving back to his community, and his generosity garnered him a lot of attention and a lot of new friends. This kind of charity drew the attention of Doris D.D. Moore, who launched a business with the lotto winner to his ultimate detriment. As a successful businesswoman, she claimed that she didn't need his money but wanted to help him manage his finances as an advisor. D.D. Moore then began transferring his funds into her accounts, changing the deeds on his house and his BMW into her name, all behind his back, before finally being caught after Abraham disappeared, never to return. Either way, everyone would like a chance to try out being a millionaire. Martin Tote, 33, and his 24-year-old wife from the UK missed out on the fortune after losing their ticket. They had always picked the exact same numbers ever since the lottery began, so when the numbers came up on the TV screen one after the other, they immediately began celebrating. As the numbers appeared on the screen, we both screamed with excitement. I felt like I was about to burst. The feeling of happiness was overwhelming. You start to think, I've made it, and your mind starts racing with all the possibilities. Yachts, cars, houses. Then, unfortunately, things took a turn for the worse. The problem was, we couldn't find the ticket. We searched the house thoroughly, checked coat linings, moved furniture, and even lifted the floorboards, but it was nowhere to be found. We had lost it. We immediately called Camelot and provided them with the purchase details. They began to take our situation seriously. Later, we discovered there had been 150 false claims. They'd managed to convince the officials, but because there's a 30-day time limit for reporting lost tickets, the jackpot became the largest unclaimed amount since the lottery began in 1994. The feeling of thinking you're going to have all that money is incredibly freeing, but having it taken away has the opposite effect, Todd explained to the Daily Mail. It drains your spirit and puts a huge strain on your marriage. It was the most cruel torture imaginable.